Hi everybody, welcome to Catherine Sews. Thanks so much for joining me today. Today I want to take you through a thrift flip that will transform this shirt into something a little bit prettier. I don't know, some women can wear a flannel plaid shirt and look super cute and stylish. I never seem to be able to feel good in a shirt like this. I feel like I just raided my son's or my husband's closet, and it's just not me at all. I just feel actually terrible in this shirt. I don't wear a lot of collar and cuff shirts to begin with. That feels really constricting to me. I just don't like the feeling at all. So I think I'm going to get rid of the collars and cuffs. But then what to do instead? I've got some scrap ribbing, so I'm going to play with that. The other thing I don't like about a flannelette shirt like this is when it's a casual kind of Saturday afternoon look, I want to have to iron my shirt. And so all that folding and creasing in here that just looks so messy, I don't want to have to deal with that for something that I'm just going to throw on to be casual. So I'm going to see if I can do something about that. I don't want any weird funny gaping in between the buttons, so I might just sew that right down. And then I don't even have to fuss with buttons at all. It can be a pull over my head kind of thing, and hopefully a little bit cuter and makes me feel a little bit less like I'm wearing my husband's clothes. So let me show you the process. I'm really glad to have you along for the ride. And I'm going to start with my friction pen and draw a line where I want the neckline to be. I know I want a button at the top of the shirt still. Can you see that line? I'm just drawing right up in there. I've got a line kind of going from right beside the collar there to curving around to the top of the button there. So I think that's going to make a pretty neckline. And also marking the length of my sleeve. I have that placket, right? I don't really want to mess around with that too much. So I think I'll just cut it right at the top of the placket. Cut there. So I've got the shirt off and folded in half. I'm bringing it together so that I can make one cut to make this symmetrical. And I'm just going to put a few pins to make sure it stays symmetrical for me. So I'm pinning together that whole collar stand. So I want it to be right angle straight across the placket and then blend into my curve here. Good. Okay. And then once I get up near the collar stand, I can just come around and just basically be cutting off that collar stand. Now bringing both sleeves together, lining up the cuffs, and I'm just going to cut off right across just above that sleeve placket. So these are just awfully cute. I'm going to keep those for any little project I might think of. Like, I could even just see that becoming a little gift pouch. I don't know. It's just too cute to throw away. I don't know. I didn't like wearing it, but I like looking at it. Well, I think that's better already. What do you think? I like the neckline. It's just open and nice. I feel like I can breathe. And the sleeve length, that's totally fine. So it feels just a little less Ellie Mae Clampett kind of. I just feel like a little bit more me. So now, actually I'm going to do two more things to it. I'm going to sew this right down. It's not going to button anymore because I don't want to ever have that, like, all that folding and gaping is just so messy looking. So I'm going to just take care of that by sewing that right down. And then it's just going to pop over my head. I don't have to like fuss with buttons. And then a length of this ribbing, the ribs of the knit going up and down like that so that it stretches across. I always have somebody in my class who cuts the ribbing the wrong way, so it's stretching up and down instead of around. So don't be that guy. And now this is going to sit in here. So kind of like that. I still want it to kind of look overlapping here so it looks like it's part of a button shirt, or maybe just a narrower piece of ribbing around. That might be better. That did look kind of heavy in there, didn't it? Yeah. Then I've got two pieces of ribbing for the cuffs, and again, the ribs go up and down so that it stretches around. But of course I don't want it to be restrictive. That's like the whole point of this shirt, is that I want it to have like a soft and open feeling. But yeah, I just don't want it that deep. So all this bunching around the buttons, it drives me nuts. So I'm going to press that flat, and then I'm going to sew the two fronts together. And then I can button it back up. With it buttoned back up, I'm pinning it right along that line of stitching. And that's where I'm going to sew the two edges together. I'm not going to go past this bottom button because I want it to look like it can open naturally there. I don't want it to look like it's sewn together. I just want it to stay flat.
I'm switching to a zipper foot so that I can sew right in beside the buttons, and I'm moving my needle over to the left for the same reason. Okay. So the whole shirt's going to be bunched up behind my machine, just bringing that front edge out toward the front of the machine so that I can get in there without sewing the front of the shirt to the back of the shirt. Now I'm trying to sew right on top of that line of sewing so that it just looks still like one line. And you can see why I need the zipper foot, right? Just to get around those buttons. And I'm going to stop right at that bottom button, just so it doesn't look too artificially closed there. So right now the neckline, if I fold it in half, it's coming out to 14.5 times 2, so 29 inches. When you're putting ribbing around a neckline, and if you want it to lay flat around the neckline, the way a t-shirt neckline does, you have to stretch it. If it's not stretched, it's going to sit up like that. So the general rule is we want this to be about 75%. So right now it's almost exactly the same. So normally to get that 75%, I would measure and cut off about 1/4 of this. But since this is actually a little bit shorter already, I'm going to take off a little less than 1/4. And then my cuff pieces, they're almost exactly the same as the cuff of the shirt. I don't need to take off 25% of these because I'm not going to be requiring this to stretch around, and I don't want it to stretch in snug, so I'm just going to take off 1 inch maybe. So that means my final pieces are just shy of 10, 9 3/4 by 3.5, and this one is 2 inches wide by 21.5. So all of them I'm just going to fold right sides together, and I'm going to sew the 15 line on all 3 of those edges. So now at the iron, I just want to press all 3 of those seams open and flat like that. Now when you fold a cuff together, you're going to be folding it wrong sides together. You don't want to have a little bump at the end of your cuff, so make sure your seam allowance stays flat like that. Bring the 2 ends of your seam allowance together, and then flip it right side out. Nice. So that's how you get a cuff with the seam all inside. And you also want to bring these edges up together too. That's going to be important later, that you want your edges together. But now this long neck piece, I just need to press a little bit at a time all the way around. So there's my cuffs and my neckband all prepared. And now I'm just going to pin those right side together with the shirt. So I'll just get rid of that button, pushing my seam allowance to one side. Normally on a neckline ribbing, I would put that seam at the back with the edges open, the seam allowance open, so that it's as flat as possible. But here I'm just going to make use of that ridge and make it look like it's actually wrapping a little bit. So now, I know I want that there. I'm going to turn the whole shirt inside out. Good, so stretching that straight across from one end to the other just to find where the opposite end of the ribbing wants to get pinned. All of the raw edges are going together. So just stretch, grab your edges and pin. Now I'm just running the edge of my presser foot right along the edge of all of the raw edges and stretching as I go. Keeping these raw edges all together, and then this hand is always checking to make sure there's no funny puckers or folds on the shirt. I've just pulled the sleeves inside out, and now I'm going to take that cuff, put it inside the sleeve, and match up this seam of the cuff to the seam of the shirt. Bring those edges together. So again, now I've got 3 raw edges coming together again. You could put some pins around here, stretching the same way we did. But I'm just going to go for it. So I'm just going to stretch it and organize as I go. Good. Alrighty. Now, before I serge those edges, I'm going to try it on one more time and make sure I'm happy. Okay, I tried it on. I like it. It looks cute. And so now I'm just going to serge all my edges. And of course, if you don't have a serger, you can just zigzag, but this is where you'll see why you want to get a serger. It's just so much nicer, honestly. Back to the iron for final press, and that buttonhole is showing, but I think that's kind of good. I think I'm going to sew that button back on there, and it'll kind of finish it off, I think. As a little bonus, I'm just going to use up the little collar and cuffs just for a couple of other little fun projects. That's a cute little way to give somebody money at Christmas. So I'm going to just sew the sides here. So the collar, you can see, looks just so handsome on my dog. And the cuffs are just a cute little way to be able to give somebody some money at Christmas. I could even run this through my embroidery machine and embroider my son's names on there. That would be cute. There you go, 2 little bonus projects.
So there's the finished product. Super easy to throw on. It's comfy, it's soft, and I feel a lot better in it than with the collar and cuffs. It's just much easier to wear. I can just keep it super casual and sporty like this, or I can make it a bit more polished with a long red cardigan, red belt, or my favorite black leather shirt over it, and then I don't have 2 collars fighting each other. Or more business casual with a blazer and a more toned down belt. But I think the shirt's a winner. I'm really happy with it. I feel good in it. In my last video, the wrap sweater video, one of my awesome subscribers made the comment that it would make a perfect Christmas present, and I think this one would too. I think that upcycling really is what the world needs more of right now. We don't need to buy more stuff. There's enough stuff on this planet for everybody, but taking something old and turning it into something new is, I think, a really special gift. You can find the V-neck for the wrap sweater or a plaid shirt really at any thrift store. Super easy to find and pretty easy to do too. So I had fun with that, and I'm glad you were along for the ride. And if you liked that video, please give it a thumbs up and click subscribe. Thanks so much for joining me today. Till next time, take care.